ain't even cue up my music. I ain't cue up none of my music. I ain't cue up none of my music. Let me see here. I don't even need it, to be honest. What's going on, Conscious crew? It is your host, Consciouztv. Welcome to another riveting, beautiful episode of the Conscious television program. I am definitely here with my vanilla brother from another mother. You know, that much is very, very, very clear to me. Before I bring my special guest on, if you're new here, definitely hit the subscribe button. Certainly gives me a old nasty piece of thumbs up. It don't cost you nothing. It is free, $9.99, and everybody needs to make sure that they have on their notifications, okay, so that you can keep up with the ebb and flow, with the content that this platform is pushing out continuously. I want to also give a major shout out to all of my PayPalers and Cash Appers. God bless you all. I received all of y'all's donations last night. Thank you so much for sewing into me, sewing into the platform, and just showing me love because you appreciate what I do here and what we do here. Today's show is going to be a really interesting show. You guys know that my channel first got its start on spirituality, angels, God, the cosmos, the law of attraction, energy, frequency, vibration, all of those mystical things. This person that I'm about to bring on, I was introduced to him by someone who follows his platform, and immediately the synergy was A1, and I ended up doing 2 interviews on his platform. He's also been here on the Consciouztv platform one other time before, and he's a wonderful individual, completely multifaceted like myself. It's kind of really incredible to really know someone else who has so many intersections within their spirituality. So we want to get into his story. We want to get into some current events, and with no further ado, as you guys do what y'all do in the comment section, which is share the stream out, like, and share. I'm going to bring TruthSeekah on, and if my mods are in the building, TruthSeekah is going to drop some links to some of his products, his Patreon, and he's going to drop some links to his Amazon where you can find his books. So my mods, if you're in the building, occasionally please retweet. This is not even a tweet, but just share the links that he's posting so that as those are coming in, they have access to those links and can subscribe and can support TruthSeekah and his material. So with no further ado, let's get into some things.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, before we bring my guest on, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Hey, Ray, what's going on? She Diaries. Hey, Oz. Hey, Pat. What's going on? King Buddha. Hi, Blessed and Book. What's going on, everybody? Happy to see you guys in the building. This is not supposed to be red. It's actually pink, but it just translates real crazy on screen. But TruthSeekah.
Hey.
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm well, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, there's nobody else. Look, I'm really antisocial on these streets. I don't fool up with a lot of people. So the kingdom know that it means a lot if I have a camaraderie with somebody. I'm very particular, very peculiar, about folk and developing relationships. So they already know what time it is if I'm messing up with you. When was the last time you was on this platform? It's been almost a year, right?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe longer. I don't know, because I know we scheduled something and I don't think it went through. I don't think something came up. I had double booked, and I don't think we ever did it. So I know we did something a while back on your show, and you, like I said, you've been on two on my podcast, and I think you hold the record still for the longest episode. I think we went 4.5 hours on my
Yes, because
podcast.
you had somebody else come on your platform and they thought they was going to outrun me in the length, and I had to make sure to get that 20 extra miles on the run. So yes, I gotta maintain my crown. But I'm happy to have you here. I'm happy to be getting into a conversation that I know I could only enjoy with a mind and a consciousness like yourself. But before we get into those topics, can you tell the people a little bit about who you are, what you do, and don't be afraid to promote any shameless plugs, okay? Books, healing sessions, the whole nine. Give it to the folk.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a book. My book is called Spirit Realm, Angels, Demons, Spirits, and the Sovereignty of God. I was blessed to have Jordan Maxwell write the foreword. So that's out. So I'm an author, obviously, spiritual hip hop artist, so seeker, and just finding many different mediums that I can to tell my story, my podcast. I'm a podcaster, blogger, anything. I do guided meditations, like you said, one-on-one sessions, healing sessions, and teaching and all that good stuff. So I go by the name of TruthSeekah. All my stuff is available at TruthSeekah.com. I started out in I would say the occult, and getting like interested in the paranormal, supernatural, the realm that exists beyond this one at a young age, from having that an encounter with what we'll call shadow beings, waking up in the middle of the night at 4 years old, being pinned in my bed by these entities, and that kind of set me on this course to look into a lot of deeper stuff. So I started out, just being a seeker as a kid, man, teenager. Then I got into the occult pretty deep. Ended up getting born again at 16 at a prayer meeting, and did that for a little while. Fell away, got deeper into the occult when I was a little bit older, and almost lost my mind. We've talked about this on your show before, being pulled in and out of portals by demonic type entities. They're all speaking to me at once in foreign languages, and I couldn't control it. My health started to deteriorate and all that kind of stuff. And I hit rock bottom, going schizophrenic, and called out for God. When I was at my worst, and ended up calling a bunch of churches in the phone book. One church came, and or pastor came and answered my call, and ended up coming pick us up and bring me and my girlfriend at the time to church and pray with us and stuff like that. And that was in September of 7th that I rededicated my life to Christ, and getting into church, and healing my mind, if you will. And that was, it was over 20 years ago. And on that journey, it's just been a roller coaster of a lot of beautiful stuff. And I kind of feel like God has brought me full circle back to revisit some of that stuff. And what people have been calling the righteous real, like there's or I would say a right way and a wrong way to do things. And so I'm revisiting a lot of, the spirituality of, of our heritage, but really of the faith, of the Christian faith, even like the Bible, like, again, because if there's a religion, or the religion of the day, that is against spirituality and against divination, against aliens, against plant medicines, against all this stuff, it's Christianity, and like railing against it, but finding all of this beautiful stuff within the Bible that, hold on, these people were in tune. You mentioned phase and spirit beings, and hold on, like there's some interesting scriptures that show that the prophets and disciples and Jesus were in touch with entities and ancestors and reincarnation, and leaving their bodies, and dream interpretations, and speaking to angels. And like, come on, like that's amazing stuff that we've been told that it's outside of the Bible or outside of Christendom, when I've come to like show that stuff in the Bible. And that's really what my book teaches. It gives my personal experiences and biblical references to the paranormal and the metaphysical.
Wow. Now you just opened up a can of worms with where I was going to go in this conversation as an opening piece. But we're going to get into some other things before we get into the minutia of this dialogue. But before we even get there are some people who are dealing with a spirit of lust with me and you on the stream. Do you want to clarify to the people if you're in a polygamous relationship? Does wifey share? Is she into you having 3, 4, 4 wives and concubines?
Yeah. No, I'm 100% committed. Found my soulmate at 14 and been with her ever since. And yeah, I'm in a committed relationship, and I found the love of my life at 14. So she, this stuff I'm talking about going through, she's been there. You know what I'm saying? Like, why mess that up? Why, you know what I'm saying? Like, try to find something, like somebody's just been with you since like childhood. You know what I'm saying? It's your ride or die. So yeah, we're just 100%, in love with each other and falling more in love with each other every day. Really, it's beautiful, this life that we've created.
Okay, so what that means is, to all you lonely mother lovers, find your soulmate. Okay, find your soulmate. Get up off this man. Okay, you done got what's his. I want to get into a little bit of that as well, but so you got my brain scrambling, because when you talk, you say so many things that stimulate many thoughts and so many questions.
I see you got a pen in your hand. Are you taking notes? Because you just got to write one word just so you can revisit it later.
So, what do you label yourself spiritually? Because I know for me, I like the term, and I'm okay with the term Christian mystic.
Yeah.
If you had to identify yourself, what would be the way you
That's it. That's what I do. And I say fully both, you know what I'm saying? Because there's some openness there. There's, we say, hold on, I thought you was a Christian. Yeah, I'm a mystic too.
Right.
I thought you was a mystic. Yeah, I'm 100% Christian. Like my introduction to this is the cross of Christ that changed my life, and it's my foundation. So to say that is a box that we're living in, no, it's a foundation that we're building upon, both of them. Christ, I feel like this mystical encounter or relationship with Christ is a mystical experience. Absolutely. And again, going back, just reading the scriptures and the stories of their life, and even the early church was very much steeped in mysticism and beauty and mystery, and we got to reclaim that instead of giving it away. So I call myself a Christian mystic.
What would you say to people who feel that there is more to their relationship to Christ than what's being presented to them by the church? People who are locked within the 4 walls of religion, who probably in secret read your books, listen to these type of podcasts, follow people like us, but don't have the courage to follow that inner call to mysticism or divinity. Like, what would you say to folk who are struggling in that way, who want to explore spirituality, who want to open up their relationship to Christ, who intuitively and psychically feel that there's more information and data, but that religion is preventing them from greenlighting that or giving themselves permission to walk by faith and into those depths of God?
Yeah. So for the Christian, I mean, where I was, like, I had to find it in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So if I could find it in the scriptures, I don't care if nobody believed it. I'm finding new stuff I've never heard anybody speak on, about communing with ghosts and ghosts bringing you messages in the middle of the night, all of that in the Bible, man. So for the Christian who feels they want to go deeper, or they feel drawn to it, it's like, find it in the scripture, because that there's a safety net there. It's like, hold on. So if Jesus did it, I can do it. If Paul did it, Barnabas did it, Peter did it, I want to do it. And you start finding maybe some books that were taken out of the Bible, and books that were inspired, and you find some really beautiful stuff. So for the Christian, you know, you want to stay there. And for those who are dealing with church folks and dealing with Christians who are bound by the scriptures, you a lot of times dealing with them, you got to change your language. You know, you can't be talking about Kundalini. You can't be talking about blah, 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 because it's not in the Bible. You have to like limit your vocabulary and play their game. Like Paul said, you got to become all things to all men so that you'll win some. So let's talk religion. Let's talk Bible. You ain't got all these other cool, beautiful terms that we're really talking about the same thing. I can't use those with you. And so, you know, you have to kind of meet them where they are. So for the person who wants to go deeper, you know, that's just, you know, the beginning of your journey. Which path do you take? What part do you study? You know, because there's always that check there, like, oh, I'm doing something that's taboo, that's not of God. And that's the scariest thing. But if you find it in the scripture, then there's this like a little bit more confidence to try to astral travel or try to do breath work, or, you know, or speak to an angel or whatever it is, you know, or it's so many things. So I think for many people, it's finding it in the Bible, and that kind of gives them this safety net, if you will. And that's what it did for me, you know?
Yeah. One of the things that did it for me was Yeshua himself. You know, maybe because I'm an artist and I'm a creative person, I naturally am going to probably take different things away from something than probably the average person, just because of that artistic, subjective mind that's always functioning. But it was for me watching all of the diversity of Christ. Like here it was, you know, church was reducing everything to prayer and service and faith and servitude. And here it was, I was watching Christ display all of these diversities of manifestation in the supernatural. Here it was, sometimes he was healing people just through the power of touch, which was through the anointed hem of his garbs. Sometimes it was through something more ritualistic in nature, like the spitting and the dirt and smearing out across a man's face and then having him go bathe. All of these things to me were a call out, as far as I'm concerned, from Christ to the metaphysical community in general, that here I am. All these things are in me. All these practices, all of these nuances are within what it is that I'm presenting and displaying and demonstrating. And so when I saw Christ operating in all of these mystical ways and diverse ways, it really amped up my confidence in wanting to make sure that my own spiritual portfolio was just as diverse as Christ's was. Even when they came to the man who was deranged and demonically oppressed, Christ knew that some spirits had to be casted out, not just with prayer alone, but also fasting. And that's when I really began to understand that this is why mystery schools were so significant, because in Jesus's day, mystics, scholars, spiritual students had access to actual spaces that taught metaphysics and astrology and stillness and focusing your point of attraction, controlling what's in your mind's eye, proper prayer. And so I was just, that sent me over. And then there were other passages like Paul talking about us having to transcend and elevate beyond the elementary teachings of Christ, that there is an evolution of consciousness. There's an evolution of connection and interpersonal relationship to the divine. And so I'm just like, clearly there is intel within the nooks and crevices of our relationship to Christ that can only be accessed not necessarily by the hieroglyphics written on the walls or text, but actual relationship and actual faith.
Song and dance, if you will.
song and dance and drumming up that synergy that you feel when you are surrendered over to the divine and you have that experience of the Holy Spirit, or you enter into the altered state and you lead from that frequency, that Christ frequency or Christ consciousness, as the New Age would have you say. But I agree. Now, you spoke about succubus and incubus. What has your experience been with these particular spirits? Because I had an interesting experience with a incubus that I want to share. But what is your understanding of succubus and incubus?
You know, we get a picture of them in the Testament of Solomon, you know, where Solomon was given this ring where he was able to take authority over the demons and extract information from them. He was given a pentagram. That's why the 5-pointed star, which is a sacred symbol held by most witches and held in high regards by the early church. You see it in a lot of Catholic symbology as well. And it was just a symbol of protection that was given to Solomon from God. The angel Michael gave it to him. And so he would get this information from all of these different spirits. And so there's like a deaf and dumb spirit that would present itself, a lame spirit, a spirit that would bend people's backs over, like people with crooked spines and things like that. And these demons would come up and introduce themselves. And he'd say, okay, what's your name? What is the angel that binds you? And what is the planetary system that you're bound to as well? And they would tell you. And so one of those spirits that came up, well, two were the incubus and the succubus. And it literally says that I get on men and women in the night to mess with them sexually. And so, as being a young man, you have what we call a wet dream. You feel something is stroking you or messing with you or trying to penetrate you in your sleep. And a lot of people have had that experience. And so that comes back to the incubus and succubus messing with people sexually while they're sleeping. As far as my personal experiences with them, it's just simply been a wet dream kind of thing when I was a kid. But one of the warlock guy who used to teach me back in the day, he had entities that were literally walking into his room looking like naked, beautiful women, getting on him in the middle of the night, and they're kissing and making love. And he says that he was about to go down. He just wakes up out of his sleep. He had people in his house all the time having parties. He wakes up, this beautiful woman's walking in the room. He goes to go down on her, and it smells like rotting flesh and garbage. And it kind of shook him, and the woman disappeared. But he said it was like almost like a physical woman that was there. And I think right after that, he said he had this thing where like he was attacked in his sleep, and a wolf jumped through his window and bit him on his stomach, and he was suffering from stomach ulcers after that. So that's one of the deep warlock dudes that I used to learn under. That was some of his personal stories that he shared with me.
So what's interesting about the wolf scenario is I had a similar experience a few years ago where I attracted a incubus. I attracted the incubus because I had got very energetically deprived dealing with my family at the time. They were doing the absolute most. It was a lot of drama going on at the time. And first of all, I'm empathic. So I absorb energy in very extreme ways. That's why I'm very kind of introverted, very mindful about the company that I keep. I try to live a very still life, almost a very Buddhist-like lifestyle, very quiet lifestyle. I'm not with a lot of rigmarole because I'm so hypersensitive in that way. And so, of course, absorbing all of this frustration and being frustrated and stressed out constantly, I ended up having a dream one night that I was in a very elongated bathroom with a pure red centaur, half man, half horse. And he gave me the impression that I couldn't leave the room unless I engage sexually. with him, I allowed this thing, for the sake of my safety, to penetrate me. I woke up 2 days later. Guess what?
Pregnant.
I wish.
Listen, go ahead.
I was hospitalized because my appendix had ruptured. My entire appendix had literally exploded into my stomach. And I know that it was because of that encounter with that entity that was able to come into my space by way of the stress that I was enduring by way of my family. And so when it comes to things like depression and sadness, I always tell people, you know, sadness and grief and frustration and anger are all organic human emotions that you need to experience. But you also need to be proactive about retiring those emotions, because there are other things that come with those states of consciousness. It's almost like every vibration, whether it's a higher vibration or a lower vibration, gives off a pheromone that attracts other energies in the multiverse, whether they be ancestral energies, whether they be angelic energies, whether they be God energies, or whether they are lower nature energies. And so not staying in a depressed, low vibrating state for a long time can not only open you up to a lot of physical issues concerning your health, but there can also be a lot of spiritual issues that come about as a way of that depression and stress and insecurity and loneliness being a portal and a gateway for there to be interaction. So I never got that angry or frustrated again in my life. Like, it was literally the wake-up call. And so now, before I even get there, I'll go ahead and cut things at the knees and separate myself before I ever entertain allowing something to get me that consumed, because the consequences for me were really epic. Any thoughts you had before we...
Yeah, I mean, my mind is just going to just what you said about the pheromones and you know, entities being able to sense it or to smell it and be drawn to it, like somebody's cooking, you know what I'm saying, and they can kind of smell it. When you look at predators, animals, that's the same way. They can smell whenever you know, a deer is around, or they can smell when they say animals can sense when you're scared. Like, there's this ESP, extrasensory perception there of your vibration or your essence, and it has a smell or it has a distinction to it. Now, us being able to articulate what exactly it is and how to interact with it, that's where mysticism and books come in and all that. But when you think of a predator, well, so a sexual predator, they can tell whenever they, you know, when somebody is open, they'll do little things, nudging them to see if, like, can I touch you without you backing up? And if long you let me touch you, oh, TruthSeekah, can I play with your hair? It's okay. Yeah, you can play with my hair. Like, there's little things that they do to kind of like feel your energy and to see how far they can go with you, whether it's a sexual predator or, you know, of children or adults or whatever. So that's interesting, as they can kind of see a persona or a person type and know, like, okay, I already know he fits the description of, you know, my last victims, if you will. Looking at serial killers, like the same type of victim. They got this person in mind that they're dealing with, and usually a defenseless person who don't know who they are, or they're somewhere that they're not supposed to be. You know, for you was in a place you weren't supposed to be, camped out. You shouldn't have been staying there. You know, emotions are true. You have to process them, but venting and like staying there kind of like opened you up in the spirit realm in the same type of situation.
There is a distinction between venting and being emotionally present and making a residence in misery, or making a residency in depression. And I definitely want people to really understand that, because our emotions are the gateway to these other dimensions of consciousness. That's what opens you. I would even say that depression, sadness, etc., are ways that lower entities even start to groom you. I don't think sometimes they can be responsible for the depression, but I think that they can sense that and amplify it, because they know that that's their channel through.
Yeah, you're being groomed by spirits, and it gets deep too. The television. Let's go there. Where we are today, there's so much fear, hysteria, uncertainty of the future. My family's lashing out at me. We have difference in beliefs of political beliefs and difference on vaccination or whatever. There's so many different conflicting things, and so you're being groomed right now for fear, for uncertainty, for not knowing, you know, if you're going to make it through the day. Like, there's a lot of grooming, I feel like, that's taking place. That's by design, even through the television right now and through the news.
Absolutely.
Being groomed. Yeah.
That's a really good point about just where we are within the culture, with the hypersexuality of music, the violence on television, the violence on the internet. There's so much fear mongering. There's all of these things are reducing and lowering the collective vibration of the people. And there's already tremendous consequences as a result of that. I mean, we're seeing an amplification in suicidal ideation. We're seeing an amplification in the collapse of mental health, even in like young people. We're seeing an amplification in dementia. Like, there's a lot going on in the world. And I know that the scriptures talk about needing to guard your mind and guard your ears, that we must take priority over what we absorb energetically, what we absorb visually, and that the burden of remaining spiritually integral in the world is on each individual. It's not on the system, because as you just said, the system by design is to war against you. So this is something that this is a priority and a diet that you have to perpetuate in your own life. Because hands down, the same prince of this world that Christ said was reigning champ in his reality is the same prince of today. And just like Christ said then, when he comes to find me, when he comes to test me, he will find nothing in me. We have to be the same way. And that you can only be successful in that by being on a enriching spiritual diet, being mindful, being filled with love, and maintaining all of the virtues that have just been communicated by the mystics that we love. Compassion, empathy, being neighborly, being communal, but just functioning from that frequency of love. It really compels the lower nature.
That's how you guard yourself, for sure.
Absolutely.
Energies.
So, spells and curses. I wanted us to have like a little bit of a conversation about what is your relation, because you are within the occult. Do you practice or utilize spells or curses? And if so, like, what is your context for utilizing them?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say, I would say not as far as like maybe a conjuring or a witch spell or something like that, but more of affirmations, more of, you know, the programming, you know what I'm saying? Knowing and seeing all of that as a spell, and seeing, and obviously, you know, you've heard that our writing, when we perform a rite, a ritual, we write something down, and our spelling, we're casting a spell, or you're writing in cursive and you're writing blessings or curses. So for me, the magic intensifies in everything that I entertain and everything that I do in all of my conversations. And so for a ritualistic practice, I wouldn't say that there's much stuff that I do. but somebody else may. It's just where my mind is, right? A lot of other people say, yeah, you're doing some pretty weird stuff. But as far as ritual and kind of going in for yourself, like, I mean, I appreciate different plant medicines that we have. Like that could be a ritual, that could be performing a spell, an initiation, if you will. I believe that we're all inducted into like a spiritual mystery school, and we're all students on the earth plane. And so we're all taking these tests and stuff like that, and we're all learning, and we're all leveling up and graduating class and failing tests and having to retake exams and all of that kind of stuff. And I do see that as something that God, what we call God, orchestrates. And there's spirits that are teachers. There's different, it's like some Harry Potter type stuff, that's going on in the spirit world. So everything is magical. You know what I'm saying? And with that being said, if you respond with anger, you failed, you messed up, you missed that blessing because I sent this person to you, you cursed them out, and but it's for a reason.
A lot of blessings.
They're trying to get some stuff out of you. Like I sent that person to get something out of you that you ain't ready to let go of yet. You're not ready because maybe there's a talk show that you're going to go on that you can't curse at all. And God's not going to let you go on that show until you quit cussing folks out when you disagree with them, or getting upset and getting in your feelings and getting depressed when folks attack you on the internet. Like there's things that we have to get over, and you know what I'm saying, the whole maturity process. I think that everything is sacred and everything is a part of that. So, but as far as like tapping into the spirit world and affirmations and reading and cacao and, we have so many tools as far as that's concerned, but I wouldn't say I do like spells in that way, but as I write it down, it's a spell. When I write down my visions and my goals and I release them and I ask the angels to work with me. Right. So I loose my angels to go out and to help and to move synchronicities. But for me, it's never on, at least in my mind, it's not of my own volition. It's like kind of working with God. Like what Jesus said, like I only do what I see my Father doing. So I feel like there's a perfect will of God for us. And there's obstacles and things we have to pass and routes to take to get there. So I want to be diligent. I want to be faithful. I want to be worthy to carry, the anointing, if you will. And that is responding with love and integrity, and not to beat yourself up when you mess up, but you're going to keep taking those same tests until you pass them, and I just found that so true in my life. So yeah.
For sure. And I asked that question because oftentimes, on this platform, I talk about spells, I talk about curses. My spiritual intersections there's a lot of intersections in my spirituality, but speaking to the West, which is made up of the majority of Christian believers, I oftentimes wonder why Christians have why they're so resistant to spells or the utilization of curses, especially since most Christians are completely okay with us having a criminal justice system. They're completely okay with us having a military. They're completely okay with us having a police task force in the country. And so I'm like, so that's one way to take care of somebody who's perpetuating negative energy, in your life, or negative behavior. What would be the difference between, instead of utilizing those things?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think there is a difference. The Bible is a book of spells and curses. So it just depending on the way that you use them, right? I'm gonna use all the beautiful affirmations. That I'm more than a conqueror. No harm shall come nigh my dwelling. I'll write it down. I'll remember it. I'll put it in my pocket. I'll read it every morning. Like that's an affirmation. That is a truth. There's so many beautiful scriptures that we're going to be protected and taken care of, and prosperity. And wherever you want to go spiritually, that I can tap in through the spirit world and not be harmed and get bit by serpents and vipers and drink deadly poison and I'll be okay. So there's all these, that would be a spell, like in that you're reading over yourself, you're conditioning your mind to to function or whatever that does for your psyche. And then on the other hand, the curses would be, God is going to take care of my enemies. So you're waiting, you're like plotting without even having to do anything. Somebody who messed you over, you're waiting because God said he'll make your enemies your footstool. You know what I'm saying? And that scripture's in there. So that's a form of a curse that you're kind of waiting, and you believe and you're waiting on to happen. So I would say those would be spells and curses, depending on the way that we use them as well. Asking for angelic assistance, or, even like you mentioned military and stuff like that, like praying that God helps us go to war against this other nation, like invoking our God. They're invoking their God, right? And so that God wants you to go and kill people or invade people, or whatever the case is, what we've been doing in other countries. Same way with basketball, and thanking God, or Nicki Minaj winning a award, thanking Jesus and stuff, like, that was it could be a spell that, that she's under, that she believed that her deity helped her to get that award,
Mm-hmm. It's just so interesting. It's so interesting to me because the scriptures are littered with prophets who utilized occultism and spells and curses and karma. I mean, believers had a whole arsenal of things. They had the Ark of the Covenant, which helped to win fights and to win wars and to kill opponents. I mean, there's all of this intensity within the scripture, all of this supernatural within the scriptures. I believe that Christianity, I think that the West has a very stripped down, diluted version of Christianity. My perception and experience of Christianity is one of like being very revolutionary. I don't think of God as simple. We'll get into that. That's probably just another conversation for another day. But speaking of conversations, UFOs. Why is these people talking to us about UFOs? Why CNN and ABC and NBC is talking to us about UFO sightings over the Pentagon? We're seeing UFO formations all over Brazil. We just recently had UFO sightings here in South Carolina, like literally hovering over stoplights, like hovering over trees, houses, like 2 and 3 at a time, orbiting, spinning, vibrating, people capturing this stuff all on their cell phones. I mean, it's really, I've always been a long time UFOologist enthusiast since I was a child, but it's really interesting to me to now see mainstream media giving coverage to something that for a long time was always in the conspiracy category. Why now? Why do you think we are going into this at this current time in terms of mainstream media?
There's something that people's always suspected that was something was going on, and the government knows and knew about it and those kind of things. And I think disclosure is happening from above. Like there's a lot of activity right now. And then people are catching it on camera, and so a lot more people are capturing really interesting stuff. So why are they talking about it now, right? That still you can get all the footage you want. They don't have to speak to it at all. But I really believe it's so that they can control the narrative. So they have to kind of say, okay, yeah, we're going to release everything we know. This is what we know about them. And what you're going to find out is that they're going to say that they're a threat, that they are our enemies, and we need to band together and fight against them at some point. Trump started a branch of the military called Space Force, which most likely it has been around for a very long time. It's where you get Star Wars from anyway, and there's a lot of technology and stuff that's been in movies that they leak it and release it in the movies. And a lot of that stuff in Star Wars is like legit stuff that goes on. So the Christian, I guess, prophet or father of the New Age movement, Edgar Casey, he's quoted saying that the Battle of Armageddon is going to be taking place in outer space, in the heavens above our heads. And so just a lot of really interesting stuff. And so my beliefs and my experiences with them, which there are many, and I've dedicated my life to putting my neck on the line to go out on a lot of the stuff when it wasn't popular in the Christian realm kind of stuff. And my experiences have all been beautiful with UFOs and with beings and ships in the sky. And what I believe is, and my experience with our leaders, especially right now, we're seeing their true colors. These people that run this place are wicked. These people are devils. I don't think they're like us at all. I don't think that they have empathy like us. I don't think that they care for human life like we do. I think that they're okay with killing people. And you hear all of this crazy stuff with the conspiracy theories, and the stories never end with children and with blood rituals and stuff like that. You hear so much crazy stuff that most likely it's real. You know, the scripture says that in Genesis, it talks about the seed of the serpent that will fight against the seed of the woman. And so this is like, in the end, in the book of Revelation, this final showdown, it's been said that when the return of the Messiah or the Messiahs or whoever's coming back, they're not going to want to give. This is their kingdom. The kingdoms of this world belong to the rich and the powerful, who use the poor people and the base people to give us bread, and we're like fuel for their system. But when that happens, when Christ comes back, you know, and who is that Christ? Listen, I'm open for the idea that it is the Christ from every religion, that it is going to be that comes to overthrow these wicked people. And what that happens, and we may see UFOs descend out of the heavens. The Bible calls outer space, or in the sky, the heavens. It says, as I went up into the heavens, I'm going to come back the same way. And as I went up into the cloud, we know that the Bible talks about clouds by day and fires by night. And we see what UFOs seem to be by day, looking like blurry clouds and blurry discs and things like that. But at night are blazing fires that traverse the night sky. My belief is that, and my hope is, at some point that, you know, the Elohim return is what we'll call them, and they'll come back to fight against these wicked people who have abused their authority and abused their powers, and have been abusing men, women, children, and animals, and they're abusing the oceans. They're abusing the spirits. They've made pacts and covenants with false deities. That's the narrative that I believe. And you'll see a lot of that kind of stuff if you look into what they call the reptilians as well. You know, we know that there's a serpent seed, and there's a fascination with serpents and with dragons and stuff like you mentioned. And I really do. I do not think that these people are righteous. They allow us to eat fake food, and they're doing so much.
Shout out to Bill Gates.
There's never. The Bible says they keep creating new ways to do wickedness. Like, once you think you got it figured out, there's a new thing that they do. Oh, you're doing what? You're doing what? And there's so much crazy stuff. It will blow your mind. And a lot of people are intrigued by it. It's fun. It's sexy at first. You're like, wow, these people. And you start looking up all this negative, derogatory, demonic stuff that you're like, because your mind's blown. You look up to your presidents. You look up to your leaders, and you find out, oh, wow, these people don't give a damn about me. And many celebrities and many of the elite are part of this. Man, you know, so my hope is that, you know, the sky cracks open, and you know, we're saved. People don't like that because, oh, you're giving your power away. We need to raise up and do it ourselves. Good luck. It shit's finna get real. You know what I'm saying? Like, good luck. They put us in our house and locked us down, and they're about to do it again. These people are wicked, man.
My prophet told me that there's going to be another lockdown for sure.
These people are wicked. No, Bill Gates smiled about it, man.
Yeah.
In the interview, he's like, "Oh, you guys didn't take the first one seriously, but when the second wave hits," and he looked at his wife and they smiled about the second wave. Why are you smiling? You should be sad. Why are you smiling about this if this is real? You know what I'm saying? It's like, hold on, it's creepy as hell, man.
I mean, but you're talking about a man who believes in depopulation, a man who is very interested in GMO foods, a man who has a lot of what I would consider to be Luciferian ideology. It's very elitist. It's very materialistic. It's demonic.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's always been I've always known that. I've studied it, so much, and I try not to speak on it. I try not to scare anybody of something that you can't like do something about. Like, what are you going to do? Well, we're going to band together. We're going to, storm the White House. You tried it. You tried to storm the Capitol. Look what happened. Y'all through. You're done. We're going to band. The people are going to come together. No, you're not. They got weaponry. And Biden just made fun of that. Biden laughed about people trying to overthrow them. He's like, we got nukes. We'll drop a nuke. He's like jokingly said, like, what the hell are you talking about dropping a nuke on your own people? Wow, that's weird. He said in the press conference. You'd be saying random stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, these people are with it. Yeah. What you can do with the hope is that you have a peace within you that no matter what's going on, I don't care if this place burns down around us, that in the midst of whatever trial or tribulation we're walking through, that we can have peace that surpasses all understanding, that nobody can take away. Nobody can take away. They can try, no matter what they do, we will not be moved, right? And as the peace that it is our inheritance from God. And I really believe in that though 1,000 may fall at your right, 10,000 at your left, no harm shall come nigh thy dwelling. I really believe that in the midst of tribulation, that we can have peace, and that's what I'm fighting for, my peace. We talked about peace of mind and mental health. Look what's going on. All this stuff's at an all-time high. Mental health, like you said, dementia and people taking their own lives. What can you do not to take your life? What can you do not to freak out in public? What can you do to hold yourself together? What's working for you? Well, I pray and I, do this and do that, and I do this. That's what I'm for. Anything that's working for people right now, when everything's at an all-time high. So I believe we can have peace in the midst of any storm and any trial.
Do you think that we need to go to war as well?
With who? The government?
With the wicked in general.
No, I don't believe a war. I think it's a spiritual war for sure. I say a spiritual war, but then it's a spiritual war, but they use physical tactics. You know what I'm saying? It's a media war. One of the first things that the Christians would do of the 21st century, when a family became Christian and the household got born again, even if they were born into it, they throw their TVs out the window and the radios. We ain't listening to this. This is demonic. These airwaves and what y'all trying to sell our children and fear, and they throw them things out the window. You know what I'm saying? But that's what's raising our generation. And that's not, that's not Christian at all. Like, there's no Christians in Hollywood. You're made fun of, you're belittled, and they take jobs away from you if you're a Christian. And so that's everything that we're getting, from entertainment to Facebook to the algorithms to the search history. Like, that stuff's suppressed and other things are promoted. Music is promoted that promotes murder and violence and degradation, degradation and so much wickedness, dude. Somebody knows something, somebody's behind that.
Well, somebody definitely is.
There is a war. There's a media war. There's what Alex Jones coined the info war. Yeah. Certain parts of the story that you don't get to hear. You don't even get to question it now.
I believe that the forces that are conflicting with humanity are not. This is not. Not only is this not their dimension, this is not their estate. It's ours. Mm-hmm. And my belief is that we need to be just as just proactive in reclaiming our time and reclaiming our property as we would if somebody came into our homes right now and tried to take our children, try to take our wives, try to take our possession, try to steal our vehicle, etc. Because I think one of the really interesting manipulations that have been able to be really successful by the wicked upon the population in general is that we become so pacified with luxury and comfortability that now we're in a place where we would rather trade principle in for luxury and the access and sense of normalcy that we have now. Almost like we're settling for somewhat of happiness when
it's dinner in a circus.
Yeah.
Have you heard that term, dinner in a circus? As long as we have those two things, we're pacified, we're good. They can do whatever they want. As long as they give us food and entertain us, we don't care. You know, they can do whatever they want. And as long as they don't cancel Sunday football here in the South, Alabama football and NFL and NBA, as long as you get to see that even half capacity or just the players, like we need something that pacifies us and to take our mind off of our situation, the situation at hand. So
yeah, I call it a comfortable slavery.
It's because you get to go home in the evening a lot of times.
It's comfortable
on a job or whatever, you know, for a corporation. You get to go home.
You get some decent housing, you get a nice meal, you get some amenities, you get some accessories. I mean, you know, so it blurs the fact that you are really in captivity, or creates the illusion of safety. But when you look at capitalism, when you look at
I hate capitalism.
Capitalism, a communism, when you see what's really going on and what the world's governments are attempting to do, I don't know if laying down and just taking that is going to be the resolve and just being hopeful. I mean, I'm maybe it's the Scorpion nature in me that believes that there is a time and there is a place for actual war, coupled with prayer, coupled with hope, coupled with mysticism, but that faith can be nothing without works. And
well, the opposition believes that for sure.
That work may be my foot up somebody's arse.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus said there comes a time where you will need to sell your cloak and buy a sword.
Boom. See, we can
sell your cloak and buy a sword because it's going to go down. It's going to go down. I'm gonna die. Listen, and I don't want to get too crazy, but like, you know, what happened over in Iraq and Afghanistan, those people went out protecting their family, man. Like those people protecting, whether it's a shootout with the military or even sacrificing their life to take out. Listen, I'm strapping up. I'm going to take my life. I'm going to take out 15 of them mother. I'm taking them out. Y'all stay here. I'll see you in heaven. I'm going to run in there and blow up all of them. Listen, like if it happened to us, sheesh, like, you know what I'm saying? Like they weren't pacified by Britney Spears. They weren't pacified by sexuality. They were very religious, very devout, and they did not want our democracy. And we forced it upon them. And they went out fighting. And you got to have respect that their names will be applauded in the kingdom of heaven, no matter what their beliefs were. And, well, yeah, you can't kill people. Listen, these folks, you went out protecting your family. Let that be my legacy. He died fighting for the ones that he loved, his family and his friends. Don't mess with my family. Don't mess with my friends. You know, and so.
Well, there's definitely a distinction between killing and murdering, but maybe I'll get into those semantics another time. But absolutely. You know, before we move on to the next topic, what's interesting is that, like, even looking at the West and how it has really villainized the Islamic faith. And what's interesting about the Islamic faith is that the reason why the West is so death scared and so adamant about penalizing and creating a narrow perspective about Islam is because we're literally talking about a group of people who fear nothing but God, and systems that want to be your God know how much of a threat it is to encounter a people who fear nothing but actual God. Because when you groom a person or a people to fear nothing but God, there is literally no way to stop these people but to actually destroy them, because you can't control them with wealth. As you said, you can't brainwash them by even death. These people have transcended the fear of death. They've transcended the fear of their mortality. They've transcended their only egoic connection to this life. That sets an ultimate precedent in the legacy of people who are there now. Everybody who has literally given up their life weren't necessarily just in what they did, but there is something, I think it should, if anything, create an inner conversation amongst all believers about, am I going to seriously pick up my cross? Or am I going to play nice with Master? Because as a true believer, historically, believers have been martyrs. True believers have laid down their life. True believers have died on the hill of their purpose. And a lot of what I've seen in the West has been a lot of comfortable activism, a lot of comfortable light working, and not necessarily seeing the real confrontation and speaking truth to actual power. Like, and our enemies know that we're not about that life, which is why they play in our faces, they manipulate us, they lie to us openly. At this point, they aren't even really trying to hide it anymore. They're just being completely low vibrating out in the open. They're exposing themselves because they feel empowered as a result of us having a performative activism or a performative Christianity or a performative faith, and not something that we are so in touch with, something that we're so interconnected to, that it literally causes us to turn faith into verbs, that it causes for us to turn feelings and intentions into actualities. And I don't know how we're going to get back to that place, but that's the place that we need to get back to, or else we are fucked. We're fucked.
Yeah, the church, has been groomed to be this way, to be passive, I don't think it's always been that way. Obviously, it hasn't. There was a time where these some crusades and armies that rode with the symbol of the cross, and that was their understanding, And so we read the Bible that it's very much a peaceful religion to make peace with all people and live together in harmony, almost create your utopia, and that's what we hope for. Maybe if even that's what heaven will be like. But it seems like down here it's a war, it's a spiritual war, and your enemy doesn't play fair.
As above, so it has to be below. There is a war that allegedly took place in the ethers, and the bleed down is the literal bleed down, and I don't agree with the Inquisitions or the Dark Ages of the church. One of my issues with some communities of believers who have transcended death and been very proactive about their agenda is that a lot of those groups were really irrational and really bigoted and actually did more harm, and they weren't really conscious or woke. I do believe in holy wars. I do believe that there are specific grounds to go into a circumstance and to reclaim time and to reclaim life and to reclaim power and authority. But do we have people? But who is there? What community of folk can be integral in war? Because I believe that war can be integral. I believe that self-defense can be integral. I believe that justice is not just hope, but that justice can prevail through sequences of physical behavior and strategizing, just like faith and works. I believe that all these things, they work together, but are not to be used independently as a remedy or as an antidote to any particular issue. But I feel like we're definitely at a place where it's time for us to literally have a different conversation within the spiritual community, within the religious community, within all communities about what we're going to do about this umbrella of power over all of us that is narcissistic, sociopathic, and maniacal at heart. I feel like what we're trying to do is reason with what is not reasonable. We're trying to be civil with what's not civil. We're trying to be polite with what's unkind. And even Christ said, eventually you have to stop casting your goddamn pearl to swine. At what point are we going to realize that we're dealing with swine? At what point are we going to realize that we're not dealing with people who are going to give us anything? That just like they took our rights, just like they're taking generations, just like they're taking the narrative back, we're going to have to take it. Whatever we want, we're going to have to run into the temple and reclaim the top spot for ourselves. Like, I can't tell you enough, TruthSeekah, how like I'm so over the hallmark, you know, we are the world, we are the children crap. I'm so over the peaceful protesting crap. I don't know what the alternative is, because I'm also not necessarily inciting people to just go ballistic. But what I am convinced of is what we have been doing up until now is no longer where the solution is. That something else is going to have to give.
I feel like we're so deep that we need help. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we need help.
Yeah.
An outside source. And I know that's giving your power away. It's like, don't look for something to save you, save yourself and all this. But you know, the people, we ain't strong enough, man.
Take it by force and know you have been given the authority by God. To obtain true justice, it requires action. And we can entertain what that action should be. We need to explore what those actions are. Maybe there are things we just need to sprinkle in with what we've been doing. We just need to like refine it more, and we need to build upon it, because I was just talking to my platform the other night about how there's no rest for the wicked. One, because they're dense, they're miserable, and they're too greedy. They only have faith in themselves. So they rely a lot on sheer human will and power and self-motivation. But the system is always...
So the a lot of the church right now believes and have always believed, and this is how many cults and sects believe, is that like you try to get in power. Like, you got to put your people in power. We got to get Trump back. Listen, 2024, Trump's coming back to set the record straight, baby. He's tired. Trump is coming, man. We're going to get him back, and he ain't playing games. He's pissed at, and there's people who still think that Trump is still the president because, you know, it was stolen and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, there's a lot of people
in August.
There's a lot of people that believe that you can, you know, you can infiltrate, you know, the media. You can infiltrate Hollywood, you know, with enough righteous people, enough creatives and creators, and get enough senators in there who are gonna like put their foot down and say, no, we ain't letting this happen no more. This is what we were doing. Now you got to give healthcare to everybody. Like somebody who is like noble, but then again, you got all, it's even with that, there's still all these agendas and fake stuff that go on, and Trump ain't really a Christian, he just fooled y'all, and you know, they got so much that goes in. But when we look at the opposition, they've been doing it. I've never been one to say that was the way, but opposition's been doing it. Like I remember, you know, I used to work with a guy who was in the Ku Klux Klan, KKK, down here in Mobile, in Mississippi, and his recruiters, they was like, hey, y'all got to go to the military because we need y'all in the army. We need y'all to infiltrate the army. Y'all need to recruit people. And they were trying to send he was an older guy, but he was like, I'm not going to the army. They tried to make him go into the army to, you know, to infiltrate. And they was sending people to school, and teachers, and the police chief was a freaking member of the Ku Klux Klan just to get their agenda and to get their ideology out there. And all of these, high places, right? Principalities and high places of power, school, economical system, judicial system, all of these places, the government, all these places of authority to try to infiltrate and to take over. And it feels like that's what, you know, they've always tried to do. And a lot of Christians, especially Christian, like dominionist, kingdom now theology, like we have to create a place where, you know, we have to create our utopia and overthrow them and do it by voting, you know. And obviously, I've been known that I'm throwing my vote away. And if people don't believe that, didn't believe it before, then they believe it now, especially the Christians who think that they rigged the election. Well, the elections have been rigged. These people were born and bred into this before you even heard their name. When they was babies, they were dedicated. They were christened into this. You're next. This is your place of power. George Bush, stop snorting coke. Get your shit together. You're next. Stop. We got to clean you up. We're going to media train you because you're next. Stop snorting coke. Stop partying. It's your turn to carry this legacy. And you know, you were born into this, you know, and it's been that way since the beginning. I believe it. People are starting to see it now.
Yeah.
Starting to question the narrative.
Yeah. There's an old saying, presidents are elected, not selected. Or maybe it's the other way around.
So I think selected, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I believe it 100%.
Well, speaking of politics, the LGBTQIA plus community, there has been a lot going on in the world over the past decade or so. Lots of changes, lots of inclusion. We've seen the rise of Caitlyn Jenner. We've seen the visibility of Billy Porter, Ellen DeGeneres, Jessica Empire. There's like a lot going on, and I know that me and you have had conversations on your platform around like sexuality, sexual orientation, and you recently actually had a female to male who detransitioned back to female and spoke about her experience and spoke about the way her faith you know, helped to bring her back to the truth, her truth, etc. That was a very controversial show. And of course, within the LGBT community, there's always mixed reviews amongst the community about the whole reconverting or
you were never gay once you convert back.
Right, like and there's a big gap between, like, I'm just going to say this for saying's sake, but like genuine LGBT folk and maybe people who thought they were LGBT, who thought they were trans, who thought they were queer, etc. But where is your mind at this point with you living in this world, you having queer friends, you're hearing the arguments on both sides. What where's your brain at with the issue of sexuality, transgenderism? Like, just what are your stance and what are your thoughts?
You know, I learned a lot from our conversation. Like I really did. And it was a really good talk, and it opened me up to a lot of stuff, and even researching stuff in the scriptures and hearing stuff, but then you know, it's biased, or what you think it's biased. Yeah, this person has an agenda that's trying to tell you this. They're a gay person trying to rationalize their gayness in the Bible and how it's okay, right? And so most believers, you're like, yeah, we know that the Bible's pretty straightforward about that. But then you start reading some of those verses and breaking down the words that were being used. And we've had, you know, some enlightenment, I would say, on that issue, on same-sex attraction, I would say. I'm no expert. I'm not same-sex attracted at all. So I don't even think why my opinion would really matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'll say this because I'm on here with you. Like, I think that like the only way you can have something to say is if you've ever you ever sucked a dick. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry. Like I never done it. I can't speak to it. I don't know. I never looked at a man and with the lust and urge to do that.
Do you think it's strange that other men can be attracted to men the way that a woman can be attracted to a man?
Not anymore. I mean, like everything's on the table. You know what I'm saying? Like it is strange just because it's not my story. Like I was never born. I didn't know it was a thing that like kids, you know what I'm saying? Ever since you're a little kid, you've always been attracted to the same sex. I never had that. I'm a little kid making love to Barbie dolls and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I never looked at Ken and got hot. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see why my opinion matters at all. But my openness to embrace people, you know what I'm saying? I give a damn about your sexuality. I love people. I don't love your sexuality. I love you. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you are, whatever you come out of or go back into or change your mind. Like it's one of those things, you know, with that whole thing about being accepted by a community is you're accepted until you're not part of the community no more. Then you was never with us. Christians do that. Like, oh yeah, he never was a believer. Yeah, he's back in the club. He's doing his thing. He never did believe. And there's scripture say, well, if you depart, then you never were a true convert to begin with. You were faking everybody or you were confused. So any movement are going to control the opposition and say, listen, you're not one of us no more. And obviously you never were. You never were a Christian. You never were really gay. You were just bi-curious or whatever the case is. And so you don't want to disown that. And I really do honor everybody's story. I want to hear it. I want to know the psychology behind it. I want to know why the attraction's there. And I tried to kind of sprinkle it in on that conversation with Ariana that we just did, just about that there was a difference from being delivered from perversion and attraction, which is what I learned from you and Larry Reed, who jumped in the chat, you know, when he did. And I was like, okay, that's interesting because I know that the Christians love those stories. They share them from pulpits all the time. I was molested at 4. And at that moment, I hate men. You know what I mean? Okay, boom, there it is. That's where it happened. But it's different than coming out the womb being attracted, right? There's things that happen to us that you know cause trauma, and we're repulsed by seeing the opposite sex, or you know, that kind of thing. So there's so much to be said. So hopefully throwing some of these things. These are just things that are in my mind. Like you know, I do have a lot of gay friends and a lot of trans people and stuff that listen to my music and listen to my podcast, and I don't want to marginalize anybody. So that's another reason not to speak on it, because I don't want to say the wrong thing. You know, that's the thing. Like they're waiting for you to.
Well, I want you to definitely be in a safe space, because I always tell people that we can't really.
I'm open to learn. You know what I'm saying? Like, so me saying an expert on anything, you know what I'm saying? I'm not an expert on anything, especially something I've never experienced. It's hard to speak to it. I'll give you my opinion.
Well,
And
let me ask you this: what if I told you your ability to understand same-sex attraction was as easy as you understanding your own hetero?
yeah, well, that's it. So my thing is, and I'm with you. I agree with you 100% because that's what we talked about on my podcast. Like that's really what I'm speaking to. That I feel like I get. But it kind of moves into the trans stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And that kind of thing, and seeing people make decisions out of a feeling, you know what I'm saying, a temporary feeling that they're going to make a lasting decision, whether it's cutting something off or taking hormones or whatever, that you can't really undo. And I know that there's a lot of regret that comes with it. I know that the suicide rates are out the water. I know people are depressed and they just feel like if they got that, cut their penis off, or they get to live as a woman, like Caitlyn Jenner still deal with depression. Like a lot, they think that they're going to find happiness if they do that one thing, and that's in us all, man. Like if I can do this, if I can find that lover, if I can get that job or get that card, and you find out you still have that hole there. So now I don't understand that. You know what I'm saying? And it just like the same-sex attraction or being hurt by men and hating men. So whatever, something happened to you that made you that way. All of those scenarios are true, every single one of them, versus like, and maybe the scenarios are true as well for the people who are just like, God messed up. I was born in the wrong body. Somebody help me. You know what I'm saying? I am the soul of a white woman trapped in a little black boy's body. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but I feel like it's open enough where all of them can be true at the same time. Every single one, you know what I'm saying? The one who's been molested, the one who's just looking for you. It's not a lot of the stuff now is even with the culture, with it being popular, like to abandon your sexuality and stuff. Like I've noticed that it's a thing. It's an option now. I feel like when we were little, like it wasn't an option. Like you had to hide your sexuality if you were same-sex attracted. You couldn't tell nobody. You know,
So
that
with
kind
that
of
being
thing.
said, do you think that including the queer people into mainstream society is a step in the right direction, or do you think there's something to be said about going
No,
back to a time where it was hidden and off the streets and out of the schools and out of visible sight? And hold on, and before you answer, I want to preference this conversation over here. We have real dialogue. We have no judgments about where people are, because we understand that we're talking about something that most people have not really had to understand, that most people have not had to really talk about or really deal with. And so we're all working our brains out and our thoughts out as we move forward in society. And so this is a judgment-free zone. And I always tell the collective body, like, you can't understand where people are unless you give them permission to tell you what's in their mind and what they think and what they feel. So we can explore that. We can move into that and maybe even come to some resolve in it. So I don't want you to feel shook. I don't want you to feel necessarily apprehensive to speak. You're not going to be canceled here. And if they try to cancel you, I'll just cancel them for canceling you. So
sure.
That'll work.
So no, I think it is a good thing, but I would say that the caveat to that though is like, it was almost like it felt like overnight that there was like an influx of like the gay character in every Disney show, the gay character in every movie that was always happy. So it went from like almost being none to like, like the flip of a switch, like being so much. And so with a lot of the stuff coming from Hollywood and every company backing LGBTQ and celebrating pride and changing their logo, I think a lot of, I think it's shallow. Like I think that's a jab. Like oh, you're honoring us or whatever. Nah, these people are trying to profit off of your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think there's a lot of that going on. But the thing that made it weird with all of that and just the flamboyance and celebration and forcing that's where it makes people think that there's an agenda. Like, hold on, something's going on, man. And so many Christians, many white men, so would say, hold on, it's that I didn't have to watch gay people on TV. Now I can't get away every show that I'm watching. And maybe that's just a part of it being accepted and people have been gay and now it's in media or whatever. But it being so much and almost seeming you're forced to accept it, which yeah, you have to. So, you are being forced to accept it, right? There's, your opinion really doesn't matter.
Are people really being forced?
That's like, well, you turn your favorite television show off. You're gonna like turn The Walking Dead off when there's a main character. Like, there's an influx of where you had no gay people to like, here's the plot twist. The Avatar, The Last Airbender, the last episode with Korra, she's gay. The new video games, The Last of Us, like, hey, we're gay. Like there's a super influx of you. Like, hold on, this is weird. And they're like the drag queens going to the schools and reading to the kids and teaching the kids how to twerk. This is wild, man. Just to be like from 0 to 60 real quick. You know what I'm saying? So I think. Damn what I think, but I think that indoctrination should be slowly done. You know what I'm saying? That it should be something that you warm the waters up. I wish that the damn New World Order people would do this with the damn vaccines, right? Why are they trying to do this and make everybody? I wish they would have just like, hey, listen, when your child's born, they got to get the vaccine. Let us die out. Because that's how we get stuff passed, and that's how we progress anyway at plan. They have an agenda. So I would say it would shock you less. It's shocking everybody. It's like, okay, everybody's got to get the vaccine. What? Everybody. You're not going to watch your favorite this and that. And I know I'm using two different things, but I'm just talking about when we're in media and it wasn't nowhere and now it's everywhere kind of thing. And so that's what like people would say. There has to be like something behind it, like Hollywood behind it or what would you say to that? Like what, like obviously there's an influx, there's a renaissance or something. I didn't know there were this many gay people in the world. I'm just got to be honest with you. When I was a kid, I didn't know there was that many gay people in our classroom. You had one gay dude in the school. Now you got 7 children gay, and something's changed, bro.
Well,
something's changed,
I think
dude.
that
sure.
You just kind of hit on it like a little bit. The issue is that people didn't have the liberty and the sense of safety to be who they were. And so everybody who participated in a world that didn't want to include queer people, who were okay with the sermons being hell and brimstone around lesbians and queer men and trans women and all of the respectability politics that were reinforced by social normality. Like all these things ran people into the nooks and shadows and crevices of their lives, and people were living in underground ways and living in secret and feeling in secret and holding secret affections for the same sex in a society that was deeply rejective of those things. And so now what looks to be like an influx is really just a curtain being pulled back and saying, here's the population that has always been here. Now are we, and now because our population has always been here and these are human beings, we can't treat people the way that we treat a vaccine because we're talking about actual people. And
well, I'm saying if they're like somebody's, printing the Coca-Cola cans, you know what I'm saying? Somebody's turning to Google.
Actually, can we take like a small because every time we talk, I gotta pee. I just drunk all this Pepsi.
Well, you know what? We'll have to come back for a part 2 because no, I'm joking. Right when things are getting hot. Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
So I'm literally going to be going for 60 seconds. You put a pin right there. And yes,
I'm gonna
read
from my book.
your book, and I'm going to be right
I'm gonna read from the book. Go ahead. Gotcha. Crystals have always been used for thousands of years and are believed to harness the energy and have magical properties. Quartz crystals are used inside of radios because they're able to dial in on radio frequencies transmitted through the air via an antenna. These sound waves can be amplified and heard with the use of a speaker. Crystals are also used to harness and expel electromagnetic frequencies. Different types of crystals produce specific types of vibrational resonance and are used for different things. Some people claim that specific crystals harness the power to heal and to have calming properties, while others are able to block out harmful electromagnetic frequencies. Moldavite is a crystal formed by a meteorite impact. Some even date it as far back as 15 million years. Moldavite promotes spiritual growth, healing, and psychic protection. Some would classify these claims as hogwash, but some very interesting studies have been done that seem to support such claims. One thing is for sure, that the ancient Israelite priests knew the power of such stones. It's been your commercial for my book, Spirit Realm. Make sure y'all go get it. I touch on it all. Crystals in the Bible.
I hope you guys enjoyed that commercial break. But I'm going to be honest. I think that what it really is I think that heterosexual people are afraid to come face to face with their own prejudice. And so because heterosexual people know that they have a prejudice, they don't want queer people to show up so that they don't have to be prejudiced. Like, don't keep showing me yourself or I'm going to have to be prejudiced because I've been groomed and indoctrinated and trained to be prejudiced towards you. And if you keep kissing in front of me, if you keep twerking in front of me, if you keep being yourself in front of me, you're going to trigger up my bigotry and trigger up my prejudice. And I don't really want to behave that way. And so I feel like a lot of it is cis hetero individuals asking queer people to take their time coming into a society that they've always been in for the sake of protecting heterosexual people from their own internalized homophobia and transphobia. And I would rather cis hetero people just actually challenge themselves and do the work and stop asking queer people to slow down, stop asking queer people to back down, to reduce themselves, and have cis hetero people say, you know what, I don't have a right to ask you to live any less than your authentic self. It's me who needs to do the damn transformative work here. So you know what, be you, and I'll use you being you to observe all the bull crap that I've inherited and come to believe and been indoctrinated with, and I will do the self-work to undo those mental constructs.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's a huge part of it too. You know what I'm saying? But to say that, obviously, I think there's many working parts. Like, I wonder, you know what I'm saying? Could that be true? And could there be an agenda at the same time, right? There's self-empowerment. There's, hey, I've been feeling this way, and now I'm in a place where I can thrive, and I don't need you to accept me, kind of thing. I think there's many working parts to people.
But what would be the agenda exactly is my question, because I do obviously hear the agenda conversation.
Yeah, a lot of people throw out.
Well,
so like a lot of people throw out like depopulation, so that people will stop.
Okay, so let's put a pin right there. Do people actually realize that queer people procreate? They have surrogates, they adopt, lesbian women get pregnant, don't like queer people. Just because people are queer doesn't mean that they don't reproduce. It doesn't mean that they don't produce nuclear families. Queer people do all of those things. So there's no depopulation. Like, there's never. Do people also realize that queer people in the United States make up less than 1% of the population? So that means that overwhelmingly, by damn near 99%, heterosexuality, heterosexual sex, heterosexual everything is the reigning champ, irregardless of queer presence in this country. There's literally no legit. There's no legitimacy to this fear of depopulation at all. So
what do you think the agenda would be? Just someone says here in the chat,
because they don't believe there's an agenda.
well, someone in the chat says that they're doing it for profit. Like all of these people are joining in, all these companies and stuff, and like they're profiting off of people's what is it liberation or people's that's total. I mean that's going to happen with anything though, right? I guess.
But yeah, because I was going to say that's going to happen under capitalism, just like Black Lives Matter is happening under capitalism.
Yeah,
women's equality is happening under capitalism. LGBT rights is happening under capitalism. So we're always going to see a profit erected out of people's pain, out of people's liberation, out of people's message because of capitalism, but not because, I mean, and those systems, as you said, they are insincere because they are driven by capitalism, but that ultimately still benefits queer people, because if you are a part of a minority or a marginalized group, all representation ultimately becomes useful representation and allyship, even if it's superficial on behalf of the one who is your so-called ally in the situation. So under capitalism, we've always taken, just collectively as Americans, we've always taken capitalism along with our march to freedom, whatever freedom that is. So the agenda thing, like, it seems to be something that's wrapped up in a fear of
no, it was just so like, again, I just can't picture, thinking about, and maybe it's true. I mean, I think there's so many things that come into play. Again, like there's kids who are abandoning their agendas because they're pissed at their parents. 1 minute they're this, 1 minute they're that, and this is like normal in school. You know what I'm saying? So that's huge, and a lot of people think that's disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? That you get to kind of be fluid or whatever to somebody who is struggling, or somebody who's trying to transition, and you're going back and forth and back and forth. And so obviously that's why what's your name on my podcast, people are like, yeah, you're not one of us, because that's disrespectful what you're doing. Because you had a change of heart or whatever the case is. There's so much to say. I know, like, it can't be explained in a one-liner. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's so many parts, there's so many people that come in.
It kind of can. Like,
you think it can? Like, so people, what is it? Go ahead.
Do you accept that sexuality and gender is more of a spectrum than an actual binary? Do you think that there's just left and there's right, or that there's left, right, and there's space, all that space in between left and right?
It seems to be there's a huge spectrum, on that, on what people are, attracted to, and
so that's my issue sometimes with our community, maybe demonizing. Oh, what's her name again? Who's on your platform?
Ariana.
Demonizing Ariana. I do understand the demonizing, because oftentimes people who become reformed heterosexual people, they oftentimes have I'm reformed, now we must all be reformed, or I detransition so that
obviously, that's what she's doing. This is the only thing that's happening.
The only thing.
She calls it gay lust, or she said lust or whatever, or same-sex lust. When I kept trying to say same-sex attraction, she says, no, it's same-sex lust. And and people lust after other things. It doesn't mean that they have to act on it. So that was her stance, and that she's reading into everybody's story, you know, that I guess a man and a woman should be married even if they're not in love or not attracted to each other in that kind of way. So that's her story for now. You know what I'm saying? Like, until
But at the same
whatever
time, like,
happens.
I don't want her, like, if people like her come out and just speak their experience, I think that that's worth embracing, because one of the issues that we have in the West is we've made a really big
Start trying to convert people like this is the absolute. And that's
but we've
what
made a really big error in creating such a strong binary to begin with. Like, it was never left and right ever. That was never ever the actual case. But we socialized people in that way. And so we've been under a false pretense that there's just male and female and that there's just masc and femme instead of these variations. Something that I was discussing on Bigo last night on a panel is the fact that we have to start at a very simple premise that both men and women are the product of men and women. Like, every boy has a mother and a father, and every girl has a mother and a father. That all people are birthed out of femininity and masculinity. Where it gets interesting at in terms of culture, or just in terms of your own personal experiences, that everybody has their own capacity for masculine energy, masculine expression, and feminine expression. But when you create a strong binary like what we have in the West, there's no room for maybe like you as a man to have access to your femininity, because this is a binary and men are to operate within that masculine binary. You play ball, you are to be into sports, you are to be into women, you are to perform duties that are associated with men. Same thing for women. Women are given a culture in that strong binary. Here are your duties, here are your gender roles, here are your colors, here are the activities preserved for you. And so because of that binary, when you have people who like, well, I like my Tonka truck and my Barbie doll house. I like pink and I like blue. I like to climb trees with the boys and I like to wear my princess dress. I like to play basketball and I'm very sensitive and emotional as a young man. Like, when we start getting now all these hybrids because of this binary, we get into, oh no. You can't operate and show up in that way. And so it creates a lot of confusion. It creates a lot of misunderstanding. And you know what's interesting? And maybe you can appreciate this as a Christian mystic, is that it's interesting to me, and we'll move on from this. It's interesting to me that even scripturally speaking, God did not create Eve from the ground up with Adam. God extrapolated Eve from out of Adam and self-actualized her before him. That God took a aspect of Adam and carved woman out of man. So now these two represent two sides of the same coin. The scriptures further that by saying, I have made both female and male in my own image.
the hermaphrodite.
Just press the gas and go even further and says, when male and female come together, they become what? One in spirit. And so here it is, we even have the scriptures trying to help conceptualize and contextualize something very metaphysical in something that can be practically understood by using human language, human rituals to illustrate the oneness between masculinity and femininity. But because we're such a literal people, we've run literally with every freaking thing. And we literally think that this is about, that when we talk about masculinity and femininity, that we're talking about men and women, and we're talking about something that transcends actual sex and biology. We're talking about energies and consciousnesses that are moving through each human being in the way that they are. And I think we will be better off as a society, and this would better help men and better help women if we just promote people, if we allow men to be in touch with their femininity, and that show up in whatever way for each man as it's going to show up. And we also support women, and we kind of already do support women getting in touch with their masculinity in whatever way that looks like for each woman. But if we stick to this binary, we're going to continue to do damage to our culture. And the truth of the matter is that we're all a product of masculine and feminine, which seem to represent the totality of God as well, which is why God created male and female forces. Each human being is experiencing those forces. Some people are not, I mean, we're experiencing those forces. I don't know what else to say. Like, you know, I look at myself and I realize that my hair as a man is my expression of my femininity, and I'm fine with that. I feel healthier with that expression. I don't have any shame around my femininity. I feel complete. I feel healthier as a person being in touch with that force. Now, I express it artistically and aesthetically. For another man, it may be in his character. He may be empathetic. That is considered a feminine trait. He may be compassionate. He may be nurturing. Men also have the capacity to be nurturing and to be loving. Women also have the capacity to be leaders and to be soldiers and to be warriors. These things are interchangeable because they have nothing to do with sex. We're talking about literal energy here and the way that it interacts with the brain, with the body, etc. And those things are deeply complicated. And I know that we want these things to be simple, but the truth is, sometimes you got to take off your GED hat and you got to put on your college graduate. Some shit is complicated. Everything is not simple. Everything is not practical. Everything is not elementary. Everything is not 1, 2, 3. We love to simplify things for the sake of understanding. But when it comes to gender and when it comes to sexual orientation, these are matters that we're going to have to get a bit more scientific about, get a bit more nuanced about. And that's the only way to do the reality of orientation and gender identity true justice is by not actually simplifying it, but actually allowing it to be nuanced, allowing it to be complex, because that's what it really is at heart. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's really deep. I think that, again, there's so much at play with everybody's story. You know what I'm saying? Of why they feel the way that they do. And what they're allowed to express and what they're allowed to explore. Like, you know, you don't know you like something, and sometimes until you explore it. I really like this. I'm going to do it once a week, or I'm going to do this every day. You know what I'm saying? So we're in a changing society where it's becoming you're free to explore. You know, freedom of expression, free to you know, to experiment. And we weren't able to do that as kids. You know, you get beat up, you get killed. You know what I'm saying? And there was a lot of stuff about it. So the world's changing for sure, and it's definitely something that's more accepted now, and even to try. And again, you know, if that's what you want to try, that's what you want to do. Like, we have the ability to do whatever we want, and to change and to evolve and to experiment. And I'm for it. 100%. Self-expression, and you being able to love the person that you love, and be with the person that you're attracted to sexually, spiritually, you know, the energy, whatever you want to express, to be the enigma that you are. You know, I'm definitely that spiritually, you know. So I think it should be something that people can embrace in every part of their life. Like, to be told that you can't love the person that you love, like, you know. And I'm glad. I'm definitely glad that we're making strides in those areas for people that can't be their authentic self, you know. So whatever that took to get here and what it looks like moving forward, you know, is a huge part of the conversation and where we're going with it. But but yeah, we're a mixture, we're a conglomerate of a lot of different things, that we like to do, and the higher frequencies, lower frequencies, all of it taking place in and around us at both times, positive, negative, male, female, and everything in between of that contrast of it all. And whatever it is that makes you happy, and not hurt, do what thou will, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you know what I'm saying? Because there's affecting someone else's way of living to hurt somebody. So like, do whatever it wants to make you happy. Well, there's other people who we get into wickedness, right? And they do wicked stuff because it makes them happy and it fulfills them, but it's not good. So as long as you're not hurting anybody, or really hurting yourself, man, so.
Well, it's always been interesting to me how people have said that love covers a multitude of sin, and love knows no color, love knows no race, but it always ended when we got to sexuality. But you can't be same gender loving, but love can conquer and transcend every other boundary in life. All of a sudden, love can't hop the fence of orientation, and it's just like, the beautiful thing about love is that it's diverse and it's colorful in that way, and it bleeds and protrudes out into all these areas of human existence. So, I do understand the fear. I understand that straight people are scared to death because they're just like, what the hell is happening? But, a lot of things have happened that we wasn't ready for. Like, were white people ever going to be ready for the freeing of slaves? Were they ever really going to be ready for Black folk to live in their neighborhoods and to teach their children and to be treated with there was never going to be a right time to do that. That nobody was ever going to be ready. It was just something that just needed to happen. And guess what? And there were racist people who were just as shook. Like, all these Black folk at one freaking time, they're on TV, they're everywhere. What is happening? Yeah. And we're seeing this, it was the same thing with the women's movement. It was just like, no, can you guys stay in y'all dresses and stay submissive and only be happy with having men's children and baking pies and being a lady in that way? And when women said that I'm more than just a baby maker for men, that I am ambitious and I'm domineering and I deserve to be respected in business and I deserve to have my divine masculine honored, etc., then, men was not here for all of that. All the women who independent, like, people was not, we are never ready for change. We're never really ready. And so I'm just like, I don't know when were straight people going to allow this to happen? Never. It was just going to have to happen. And it was just going to have to be dealt with, and we were just going to have to deal with it like we had to deal with all other shifts of paradigm. And it's okay. I just want us to realize we're okay. Everything is okay. It's different, and it's okay. Like, we're all okay. We breathe. We're in this together. It's fine. Nobody's trying to take over anybody. Nobody's trying to dominate anybody. We're dawning upon a 2-hour marker. Before we end there, somebody had an interesting question. And I had one more question that I want to ask to you. King Buddha says, that's not the question. The question was, what is the purpose of the Baphomet? Do you have anything to say to the symbol of the Baphomet?
Let me see. I remember I opened this up to the Baphomet part just the other day. I don't know if I can go right to it, but this is this isn't my book. This is The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall, and he covers the Baphomet. I'm not an expert on that symbolism. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you get the as above, so below. You get the light and the dark. There's a lot of different things to it. It is the image and the deity that we associate with Satan in Christian culture, but obviously Baphomet isn't. A lot of people say that he is the god that is worshipped in Freemasonry. So that's a take too. But the
Mm,
symbolism of it, right? We see that, one hand up and one hand down or whatever. We see George Washington in that monument where he's like in the same pose and position as the Baphomet
we
as well.
also see a lot of depictions of Jesus in the same position, as above, so below. There's a lot of symbolism in that Baphomet. There's an androgyny there, a women's breast.
Like I think it's the hermaphrodite too, maybe. There's like a
We also see children surrounding the Baphomet. I've been studying that symbol, and it's interesting how occultists are kind of unconcluded about exactly what the Baphomet really symbolizes and represents. So it's been ritualized and contextualized in different ways. Some occultists have used it for uplifting, prosperous things, and other occultists have used it for more darker means. So I'm
not an expert on it. In my mind, it could be more of a symbol, but I've been told by some Mason friends of mine that it is it's a deity that's worshipped in Freemasonry, that can be worshipped, and it seems like you have to work your way up to get there. It's not for the lay people kind of thing. It's something special just for them. And whether it's worshipped or whether it's taught to them, I don't know. But I'm definitely, so I can't really speak too much of it.
Okay. Final question. Are we living in our end times? Are we dawning upon the end of the age that's been prophesied for so long? Do you think that the chapter is coming to a conclusion very soon? Or do you think we're still far out from the chapter turn, the ultimate chapter turn?
My eschatology on scripture, as far as like reading Revelation and all this scary stuff and the end of an age and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, it seems like we are coming upon the end of an age, the age of Pisces, and stepping into the age of Aquarius. But as far as where that is in biblical prophecy, that I'm fully convinced that most, if not all, of those prophecies were fulfilled in. Like, I'm saying, Revelations is like an overview of things that have happened. Babylon falling, Babylon fell. The king, it says Babylon's going to fall within an hour, and that happened. You've seen the king who is like doing all of these things to God's people. Then in an hour, he's on hands and knees eating food off the ground like a chicken. And it says that like he fell from power and fell from grace. And there's a lot of prophecies that Jesus said would happen that happened already, and we keep wanting them to happen again. We keep reading into them, and a lot of doom and gloom with that. A lot of they're coming to kill the Christians. I mean, part of anything that like unsettles Christians is feeding into that prophecy. The self-fulfilling prophecy. And people are living like they're in the end times. But as far as the literal prophecies go, Jesus ended up, fulfilling those and telling people what was going to happen, and that the generation that was there with him in Matthew chapter 24, he said, this is coming on you. He said, this generation here won't pass away. You guys won't die until you see everything that I'm telling you come to pass. And it did in 70 AD. There's some pretty gruesome stuff that he said was coming, and it happened. And then there's the martyrs, the early Christian martyrs who were killed for sport and had to go underground. And the ones who didn't obey the prophecies of Christ and flee to the mountains, like he said, they were ones who were trapped in Jerusalem, which when Jerusalem was ransacked by the Romans, and they wouldn't let any food come in or out. Hence the tribulation for 3 years. And they end up eating their children. Like it talks about that in the scripture, but in 70 AD, like this stuff happened. They were eating their kids to survive and doing all types of wickedness. The true Christians are the ones who like believed what Christ said. They got the hell up out of there. He said, when you see Jerusalem encamped with the army, run, get out of here, head to the mountains. He said, if you're on the roof, don't even go get your cloak. Get out of here and run. And those who heed to his warning, they were able to escape that fate. They were hunted and stuff like that later. But I think it's a slap in the face for people, to Christians anyway, to think that, yeah, that stuff happened, but it's going to happen again, or that wasn't the fulfillment. Like, those people were hunted for game and they made to fight a lion. You get to live if you can beat this lion barefisted. Go. It's like those people like died for what they believed in, and never lost faith, and never denounced Christ. So what you have is a lot of end time scenarios and stuff that they think that this is, they read all of that stuff that happened, and they read like it's going to happen again, or read that it never happened, and they're ready to have their heads cut off for being a Christian. That's an extra weight that Christian kids have to carry about the rapture and missing the rapture. If you're caught masturbating and Jesus comes back, you're not going to be taken. Like, all of this weird stuff in people's heads. If you curse and Jesus comes back and you didn't ask for forgiveness, you're gonna be left behind. You're going to hell. Like, all this weird stuff. So understanding the real end time scenario, but at the same time, we're living in perilous times for sure. So, yeah. And they said the end was near. The end wasn't far. It was there. So I got to that belief on my own by reading the scriptures and finding, like, hold on, like, the scripture says that when the judgment happens, that the angels are going to come and sever the wicked from among the righteous. The church is teaching us that Christ is coming back to take the godly people out of here, and we're leaving and letting this place go to hell. But Matthew teaches, Jesus said that so shall it be in the end. The angels shall come and sever the wicked from among the righteous, to come and kill the wicked. So there's that end time battle I was talking about at the end, if something was to happen, of the meek inheriting the earth. So I do feel we're in weird times, right? So that's why people will call me maybe a partial preterist, but I didn't know there was a term for it. It's a preterist, preterism. Whether you're partial or full meaning you think it all has already happened. And I'm leaning to majority, if not all, but I do think there's going to be some more cataclysmic events, or at least I'm hoping for.
I mean, look at everything going on in Europe, like mass flooding. Look at all of the social upheaval and uprising going on globally. I mean, it's insanity. UFOs, cloning, AI. Yeah. It's the days of Noah. As in the days of Noah, it will be as it was in the days of Noah.
Yeah,
but not.
So, I mean, I try to be hopeful and not be doom and gloom, because most, like, it changes the way you look at you live your life, man. The way you view people. Is there a
way to have peace about the end, especially if the end is like the resolve?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think for the Christian, there's the notion of like a pre-trib rapture, which a lot of Christians have kind of like, okay, things are getting bad, but he's back to come get us. We ain't got to go through it, right? When they try to make us take that shot, the mark of the beast, he's gonna come get us, and we ain't gonna have to take it, and all, these weird theories. But that gives that person peace, man. I don't necessarily believe that's real, but for that person, like, it helps them pacify the time. They say, yeah, I know it's going to hell, but we're finna get out of here, man. We're leaving. Y'all can have this. He's coming back to get it. We're going to heaven,
Yikes.
When the whole thing about your testing of your faith is to be tested anyway. It's not to be excused from your test.
Ain't no other Christian body in history was excused from.
Yeah, right. If they had to fight a lion, what means you think you got to fight Fauci.
Right. Yes, it's the Bill Gates 2021. It's interesting. You know, I was raised up under all of those beliefs, the rapture, the tribulation period. You know, I don't really think about it anymore. I just stay ready. I just maintain my relationship to God. That's all I ever know, for better or for worse. So for me, whether it's the end, whether it's a rapture, whether it's all hell about to break loose, nothing is going to change for me, because my relationship to God is just going to remain like foundational to my existence. So that's where my true refuge is.
Yeah.
And nothing changes that for me.
Yeah,
like
for people to think that you have to have your theology correct, just in case that doctrine is true, that there's a pre-trib. Well, it only works if you believe in it. Hold on. That's some metaphysical stuff there. Like, if you have the right doctrine, hold on, I'm living a good life, and I honor the Creator in everything that I do, and I try to check my heart, and I make sure that I have my faith in check. Like, why I'm going with it, even though I don't believe it. Like, even if that is the case, it's like, no, he can't go because he said it wasn't real. You know, no.
Look, the blood was for me too. The blood was for me too. Okay, it was for me too.
Yep.
So, one more thing before we get out of here. There are so many people in this comment section who clearly don't have a man. What would you say, like, to people who want what you and your wife have? Do you think everybody is destined? Do you think that God has a mate for everyone? Do you think that everybody has a spouse, that everybody who desires intimacy and marriage has that available to them? Or
I believe people deserve to be happy. You know what I'm saying? I believe that everyone deserves to have a mate if they so desire, and be happy, and a companion, you know, and I desired that at an early age, and I found somebody who was very compatible with me, and who allowed me to be myself, you know, and didn't judge me and put up with me and my kookiness. And I did the same, you know. I provided something for that individual, and you know, I have to catch myself, because like I don't want to. I set the standard high. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I started telling people stuff like, it sounds like church stuff, like cliche stuff that I believe in my heart. I say, don't find somebody you can live with. Find a person you can't live without.
No.
Find that person that, man, I have to make you mine. Like, I will do whatever I move heaven and earth to make this work. You know what I'm saying? I'll change the parts of me that are bad. You know what I'm saying? I'll give up my selfishness. So for me, that's me, but I hate to project that on everybody else. You know, that find the person you can't live without. But a lot of people fight and argue, and I don't even think, like, listen,
a lot of
life
people
is too short to be doing that, man.
With people who they can't live without right now.
Yeah, life is too short to be out here fight. I hear so many stories about people fighting with their spouses and arguing and this and that. And, I wish I had. Find you a lover who is a friend, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, find you somebody who's a friend that you can play video games with, and go to the beach and see the world, man. You know what I'm saying? And so find somebody who's compatible. So, you know, how to do that? I think they're out there, and I think that they're more prevalent than people know. I think that people loathe in, I can never find the right girl, man. They all want to just party. And I was like, well, where you looking for your girls at? Where you getting them? We go the club, and man, go to church and get a girl. Like, find you one who's, you know, who ain't been through that. Take her through there. You know what I'm saying? Like, let her be. Let you, you know, you court her in whatever it is that you want to do. Like, you know, find you somebody. Like, there's a lot of people I feel like they loathe, and it's men and women, and I'm like, y'all are complaining. Y'all can't find nobody. Y'all need each other. No, she's too big. She's too big. You don't pick talking about some, she's too big. You better, and like, come on, y'all need to y'all got so much in common, but you don't look like a stud. You know, like, some things you might have to give up on. You gotta, like, trade out, like, looks for camaraderie or compassion. Like, you want the player type, you want the good looking, that he's a dog. he don't care about his mama. He damn sure don't care about you. But he looks good. He got big muscles. Sex is great, but you ain't shit to him. Listen, you're gonna have to find the right one. You're gonna have to listen, find the and people. And we know so many people, you know, who've been in those relationships where they're like they go with the looks over the nerdy person who would give you their heart, you know. But you're too big. You're not witty. But listen, this person would like live to like make you happy. Like their life is to see you smile, to be fulfilled. When you can find both now, somebody who looks good and lives to
I
make you
agree
happy.
that it should be more emphasis on qualities versus aesthetic and surface compatibility. Like, is this person caring? Does this person have the capacity to be selfless?
Yeah.
Do you feel naked around them? Meaning, do you feel like your true self, your real self? Are you able to be the you are in your bedroom when you're being corny and weird and dancing in the mirror? Can you be that around this person? Like, look for that, like you're saying, somebody who really receives you and loves you for who you are, and you know that you're loved for who you are because you're able to be who you are and still have that love solicited to you by that individual. And that's beautiful.
Yeah. So
I always tell you that you and wifey should start, like, y'all should do like a segment every now and again. Just, you know,
we've done a couple. She don't like being on camera.
I don't blame
She's in the background. You know what I'm saying? We've done a couple podcasts together where we kind of talk openly and answer questions and stuff like that. And yeah, she's very spiritual, but when it comes to limelight and all that kind of stuff, she don't like being out in the front.
I understand. I get it. I get it. Well, I'm gonna have to have you back for a part 2. I mean, I had this docket, you know, talking to interesting people like you requires multiple shows because one conversation leads to a conversation you didn't plan on having that takes up this amount of time, and then you try to get back to that, and then other things get birthed out of it. But any closing remarks to today about anything happening, anything you want people to stay mindful of and be aware of, or etc.?
Yeah. Again, for me, it's the peace stuff. We can get real dark and gloomy really quick, and it messes up the vibe sometimes. So I avoid it these days. I used to be all about it. You know, I made a lot of music about the end of the world and end times and the Illuminati and the Masons and George Bush and the Twin Towers. And listen, like when you really get into what the enemy is doing or what the devil is doing, it gets dark. It's a lot of darkness that people get infatuated with darkness. I mean, you gotta watch yourself though. So you have to make sure that there's a balance. It's not that we stick our heads in the sand like an ostrich and act like nothing's going on. You know, we should be able to speak to issues and things that we're compassionate about or passionate about. And but in the midst of that, I've made it my point to pursue peace and to seek peace with all individuals, even my enemies, you know what I'm saying? Even my demons and even the ones in power, you know what I'm saying? So do what you can and contend for your peace, because there's a lot of technology, a lot of ancient spirits that feed off of your peace, and they want it, you know, they need it. You need to be in a lower state so that we can sell you this new product that you'll you know, be in fear that you'll come get the shot. I don't know whatever agenda, whatever scenario you think, but in the midst of whatever narrative you're in, peace needs to be a part of that. Peace needs to be a part of it. Perfect peace that casts out all fear.
All fear. Something perfect love to me. Look, I gotta have you back because I wanted to talk to you about the Hadron Collider and get your thoughts about some of the things that those mad scientists over there are seeing. They're seeing all type of interesting things in the gas and in the particles that are being formed, like demonic shapes and silhouettes. I mean, it's really nuts over there. I want to talk to you about Antarctica and how scientists recently found ancient machinery beneath Antarctica, like ancient machinery. Like it literally got scientists' wigs shooketh. Okay, because it doesn't fit the mainstream narrative that ancient man was barbaric and using stones and brick and wood. That there's been a lot of interesting advancements, and so there's a lot of interesting things going on. So I'm gonna have you back once again. Can you give the folk your information?
For sure.
YouTube, Instagram, Amazon, etc. And I'm gonna have all of TruthSeekah's information listed in the description box, you guys. So you guys just check out that description box. And
yeah. Well, thanks again for having me. I enjoyed this conversation for sure. Every time we talk, we learn something, and we bring something beautiful to the table. So I love it. So thanks for having me. My book is available. It is on Amazon. Amazon's really the best place to get it. Spirit Realm. Also, I'm finishing up an album. So I'm almost done with my next project called White Magic. And it's going to be coming out very soon. So I'm trying to wrap that up. So that'll be available real soon. But if you go to TruthSeekah.com, all my links are there. The podcasts are there. There should be links to the music. Just look me up on YouTube, browse my YouTube channel, all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm on all social media platforms under TruthSeekah. Just look me up, hit me up. Love to speak with you.
I just want to say that I'm very proud of you too for first of all, remaining consistent. You are one of the most consistent people that I know. And I'm not just talking about in terms of like work ethic, but just in terms of you as an individual. You're just consistent, and I love it. And I also want to completely give you your roses on being someone who is actually willing to learn. You have no idea how refreshing it is to actually encounter people who like, I'm open to learning, I'm interested in learning. I think that this speaks to the depth of your call as a student of life in general, that you're really interested in the information. And I really appreciate you even like allowing your mind to change. I even know like after our last conversation on your platform about the whole LGBT thing, you got like your share of backlash for being like kind of wold and wild. And
oh yeah, people. I get weird emails, and so and so minister so and so said that gay people is listen. I'm not him. Yeah. Give a damn what he said.
You are TruthSeekah.
Read that into me. Listen, that man's story is that man's story, and you can't take that from him. Just like nobody can take your testimony from you and your whatever you believe in. You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, but also it takes balls to change your mind in a culture made up of people who want to be stagnant, and for you to even be like, this helped me, and that now I have other things in my brain too to fit alongside
you. Like, on the terms of sexuality and stuff, you've made it very easy to be somebody that I can talk to. Remember, I mean, the beautiful talk we had was like, damn, I can't have this with nobody else. You know what I'm saying? Because, I can tell you, we can talk and we can explore. We can get to the bottom of some things, of feelings, of cliches and things we've heard, and just put it on the glass and see what the truth is about it. So the majority of people, you can't talk with. They get offended, they get mad, and then at the same time, because the subject so touchy, you have getting canceled. You say the wrong thing, you're done. It's off with your head. There's that with this, because you say the wrong thing, you're done. TruthSeekah's homophobic, or TruthSeekah's whatever. So there's always the fear or the lingering of that stuff in there of saying the wrong thing.
And there's always a party on both sides. He's either homophobic or pro-gay, and that's an issue for somebody. Like somebody.
Yeah, and even that, like I wouldn't even call myself that. Are you pro-gay? Are you? What does that mean?
I'm pro-people. I'm pro-humanity.
Why you want me to be pro-gay? Are you pro this or pro? Man, listen, I'm like, why are you trying to get me to? And so that's the thing that I don't like, and which is the aggressiveness or the zealots. And I know there's times where you got to be aggressive. You got to put your feet down.
Or
Listen,
you
we've
gotta
been
pick a
suffering.
side sometimes. Oh, a lot of times, yeah.
We've been suffering for so long, and I had one guy that was about to come on the podcast, and then he just came at me like crazy stuff in the chat, was like asking me my position and am I gonna take up the torch for the LGBTQ community? And I was like, damn, that's your job. That's your plight. That's your cross to
But
carry.
we
Like,
can do it alone. We didn't create this issue, TruthSeekah. Straight folk created homophobia, not queer folk. So we need
in that sense, I'll be an ally.
We can't treat folk this way.
Yeah, well, I'll do that for sure.
Right.
You know, I'll do my little part on that, but to be forced into doing it, you know what I'm saying, or be threatened, we're not going to let you be a sideline ally. Oh, what? You have to do blah 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 blah. You have to post on Facebook where you stand. People don't know. I have to do what? Any of this have to stuff is weird. The government says I have to get a shot. Yeah. You have to be Christian or you have to be that. No, tell me I have to nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like if it should come organically. I should resonate with your message and with your plight, where I will organically give you a seat at the table and I will organically share your story. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm. And you've never been overbearing, and you're passionate about your stance in your life and stuff, and rightfully so. But you never been like, there's a lot of anger. It's like, why you want other people to be nice to you when you're not showing it to them? Like, now you're trying to get on their level. You're lashing out at all these Christians and all these straight white men. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to get on board, but then you like, you know, and I would have to read messages, and I forgave the person or whatever, but there's a lot of like the hostility. You're either for us or against us. I mean, I know Jesus even says something like that. You know what I'm saying? But you know,
well, I think that Jesus was definitely a man who took a side. I mean, his life ended because he was so clear about what side. You know, he really stood 10 toes down in the paint for the marginalized and for the poor and for those who were, you know, outside of the line of the status quo, and it got him killed as a result. And, you know, a lot of that anger and frustration is out of the trauma. Like a lot of people
for sure
traumatized by religion, traumatized by homophobia, traumatized by transgenderism. And so they're fighting for security and for people to make them like, help me to feel safe in this world. Like, help me to feel safe. I need to feel safe. Like, I don't feel safe. And so, yeah, there is, and that can come off very aggressive. People can be very almost, you know, irrational. But I think it also just lends to the reality of this is how bad this has been for people who don't have the privilege of being heterosexual and don't have the privilege of being cisgender, that their lives have literally been fucked by all of some of them have even made the egregious mistakes of marrying someone of the opposite sex just to give society what they want or to give their family what they want. And so, you know, this misunderstanding and this misconduct around sexuality and transgenderism is really shaped people's lives, and people have fucked themselves over and fucked other people over as a result of misaligning themselves, because this is the pressure that was put on them, which was to conform. And so there is a lot, but you know, I'm not in that place of hurt as a queer male. I'm in that place of like, I'm past that. I'm able to be empathetic and understand and say, hey, we got to have conversation. We got to, you know, have, you know, these come to the middle, and we got to celebrate each other where we are. And so just you even having me on, and you even like speaking well of me, and you even coming onto this platform, and us even being friends, and you also having a conversation that you were able to admit to your own audience really impacted you. Like, I thought that was so fucking ballsy and I was like, TruthSeekah on his Jesus shit. He picking up. He on his Jesus shit, baby.
I lost folks.
They're like, as a result of like really being about that life, and that's how. But my respect level for you went up through the, because I'm just like, that's that revolutionary Christ shit. Like that's what really being about that love life really looks like. It's like, you know what? I know y'all gonna whip my ass for being okay with these people, but you know what? I know what side of love that I'm on, and it is what it is. So if I got to go down in the blaze of glory, like I'm going down in the blaze of glory, but I'm going down on the right side of love, and it is what it is. And it takes heart to do that. It takes heart to let people who want you to be one way down. So, and you know, and I understand your plight, because I also know that what you mean by I'm okay with the LGBT community also doesn't mean that there is not nuance within that, where you have people who are dealing with other things that is not true to the genuine LGBT experience. And you can have both of those things, because I have both of those things as a queer person. I understand that there's a spirit of perversion. I understand how molestation and rape impacts and shapes and forms people's perception of themselves. I understand, you know, all of these other nuances of how we come to be as people. So I get it. You know, you can have both worlds. You can have like, there is a legitimate claim for this side, and there's a legitimate claim for people like the young lady you had on your platform. Like, all those things are a reality and a part of, they're just two sides of the same coin. It's just what it is. So so I really love you, and I really appreciate you, and I want you guys to follow and subscribe to TruthSeekah. Platform is spelled just how you see it here. All of his freaking information is going to be in the description box, and I'm gonna be able to bring your ass back on. I need you back on, because we gotta finish this roster out.
For sure.
Okay.
Thanks for having me, brother.
All right. Well, tell the wifey and daughter and everyone hello. I'm sending y'all light and love, and I will text you. I'm gonna wrap up this show and send you a text right after.
All right. Thanks so much, man.
All right, man. Peace and love.
Peace.
There you have it, you guys. TruthSeekah. This was the show. I have known TruthSeekah for what, 2-3 years now, and TruthSeekah is also a Larry Reed Live supporter too. He follows the platform and follows the brand as well. Of course, you know, we're all church people raised up in the church, but this is probably one of the most Kendrick loving individuals that I've ever met, and he's a part of what I would consider to be my tribe. You know, people who are just out here learning, becoming themselves, unfolding, and taking risk intellectually, taking risk emotionally, taking risk even physically, just taking those risks for the sake of self-actualization. So hope you guys enjoyed the dialogue. I'm going to bring him back. We have Two Men and a Lady tonight on the Wiley Show at 10 p.m. We're going to get into some celebrity commentary and talk about, there's some interesting things on the docket for tonight. So I will see you guys tonight at 10 p.m. over on the Wiley Show. Thank you all for being here. I love you all to death. And yeah, this was a splendid 2-hour long show. I love you. I gotta go. I'm out. Peace.